Okay, lecture 2, chapter 14. The first one is Thomas Hobbes. These are all philosophers. One thing I want you to pay close attention to is the comparison between Hobbes and Locke. You'll have a free response question based on that. And a lot of the science questions ask you to compare and contrast different scientists and philosophers. Most original and political philosopher of the 17th century. He was an enthusiastic supporter of new science. His turmoil in the Civil War motivated his book Leviathan in 1651. Leviathan was a rigorous philosophical justification for absolutist government, which means he favored the king. There you go. He was in favor of the Cavaliers. So he was on the side of the royalists during the English Civil War. Keep that in mind because there'll be a difference between him and Locke there. Humans are not basically social, but basically self-centered. So looking at that, he doesn't necessarily view humans or human beings as born with good intentions, that we're not basically social and we're self-centered. And he said the state of nature, the way things are, is a state of war. Life is in this state is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. This is an important quote when you're referring to Hobbes. And this is the Leviathan, a picture from the Leviathan. Now we get into John Locke, a little bit friendlier. He lived from 1632 to 1704. He's the most influential philosophical and political thinker of the 17th century. He's always contrasted with Hobbes, like I mentioned. He wrote the first treatise of government against patriarchal models of government, where they were all ruled by men or by a king. The second treatise of government as necessarily responsible for and responsive to the governed. So the government must be responsive to the people. Humans are basically creatures of reason and goodwill. That's a compare and contrast. So he believed that people were born of goodwill. He also believed in tabula rasa, which is one of his quoted things, in that we are born with a blank slate and all of our experiences fill in that slate. He wrote a letter of concerning toleration, an argument for religious toleration. An essay concerning human understanding in 1690 described the mind at birth as a blank slate, like I mentioned before, with content to be determined by sensory experience. He was a reformist view. He rejected Christian concept of original sin. He also influenced the Declaration of Independence with natural rights like life, liberty, and property. There's a picture of it. Okay, now we have the rise of academic societies. The new science threatened vested academic interest and was slow to gain ground in universities. The establishment of institutions of sharing. This is when they started to come up. The Royal Society of London in 1660, the Academy of Experiments in Florence, 1657, the French Academy of Science in 1666, and the Berlin Academy of Science in 1700. This was all influenced by absolute monarchies trying to get new technology. So each one, there's a question where it says the arts and society and sciences with absolutism. And there's a picture of a royal society. You see the globe and you see all the different maps and things like that to compare information and present new information. Women in the scientific revolution. This is a new topic. Now, this is an important one. Generally, they were excluded from institutions of European intellectual life. Queen Christina of Sweden, who reigned from 1623 to 1654, brought Descartes to Stockholm to design regulations for a new science academy. So that was an influential move. Margaret Cavendish, okay, who lived from 1623 to 1673, wrote Observations upon Experimental Philosophy, 1666, and Grounds of Natural Philosophy in 1668. Maria Winkelmann, accomplished German astronomer, excluded from the Berlin Academy. And she's an interesting person in your textbook. She worked with her husband on most of his major discoveries, and then taught her son, and then her son refused to join the academy that his mother was not allowed to attend. This is Descartes right here. Here's another picture. New Science and Religion. Three major issues. Certain scientific theories and discoveries conflicted with Scripture. Who resolves such disputes? Religious authorities or natural philosophers? In the new science's apparent replacement of spiritually significant universe with a purely material one. Representative incident, and this is a key one. Roman Catholic authorities condemn Galileo 1663 under house arrest for the last 9 years of his life. The Catholic Inquisition places Copernicus's On the Revolution of Heavenly Spheres on the index of prohibited books. So basically it's a banned book. The Roman Catholic Church formally admits the errors of biblical interpretation in Galileo's case only in 1992. And this is where you get from some of the things, the Da Vinci Code. And here's a scientific room. Look at the high ceilings. You have instruments, you have globes. Okay. Attempts to reconcile reason and faith. Blaise Pascal was a French mathematician who opposed both dogmatism and skepticism. Erroneous belief in God is a safer bet than erroneous unbelief. Francis Bacon, 2 books of divine revelation, the Bible and nature. Since both books share the same author, they must be compatible. Francis Bacon is an important person in economics, technological, and economic innovation seen as a part of the divine plan. Man is to understand the world and then put it into productive, rational use. And that's where this one will stop.